Welcome to the Locked On Titans podcast. I am your host, Tyler Rowland. Titans fans, the cuts have begun for the Titans as they trim the roster from 80 down to 53. And the first major cut, one that we thought may come, Titans legendary punter Brett Kern was released on Monday. We'll reflect on the legend's career and talk about what this means going forward for the Titans. Kern wasn't the only guy who was cut on Monday, though. 4 other Tennessee Titans were released. I'll tell you who they were, what it means for their positions, and then we'll talk about the remaining positions on the roster and who could be cut next. So breaking down the legendary Tennessee Titans punter Brett Kern and his release on today's edition of the Locked On Titans podcast. Let's get it.
You are Locked On Titans, your daily Tennessee Titans podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Titans fans, the cuts have begun. As I mentioned, Brett Kern, Titans legendary punter, probably the best punter in Titans history, with all respect to Craig Hendricks, was released on Monday. We're going to dive into that. Before we do want to let you guys know that today's episode is presented by PrizePicks. PrizePicks is a daily fantasy game made easy. Pick 2 to 5 players, and if they score more or less than their PrizePicks projection, you can win up to 10 times your money on your entry. First-time users can receive a 100% instant deposit match up to $100 with promo code Locked On. That's PrizePicks.com, promo code Locked On. Thank you guys for making the Locked On Titans podcast your first listen every day. If this is your first ever listen, make sure you subscribe on whatever platform you do stream. I am going to be putting out daily, Monday through Friday, Tennessee Titans content all year long on all platforms, including the Locked On Titans YouTube channel. Subscribe there, smash the notification bell, and throw a thumbs up on the video if you're watching right now. You can follow me on Twitter at TicTacTitans for my in-game analysis and my film work. Check out the show Facebook page at Locked On Titans Pod. But yeah, guys, it's time. We got to pour one out for the legend Brett Kern. So the Titans, there have been a few punters here and there in between, but basically the Titans had Craig Hendricks, and then they went directly into Brett Kern. And Brett Kern has been with the Tennessee Titans since 2009, and he's been rock solid. There's no other way to put it. He's been absolutely fantastic. Right now, leaving the Tennessee Titans, Brett Kern has franchise records for the most games played, the most punt attempts, the most punt yards, the best punt average, most punts landing inside the 20-yard line. He's been an all-pro. I mean, there's not much more to say here. Brett Kern is a Tennessee Titans legend, and although the Titans are parting ways, that doesn't mean that there are any lingering negative feelings with Brett Kern. Titans fans should simply, like I said, pour one out, salute the legend Brett Kern, and wish him well in his next adventure. John Robinson, Titans general manager, had this to say after Brett Kern's release. He said, quote, "Brett embodies everything we look for in players for the Tennessee Titans. He has been at the top of his game for a long time in this league, has been an outstanding leader for us, and has been an excellent representation of the Titans in our community. I'm blessed to have worked with him, and on behalf of the entire organization, we wish him all the best moving forward." And I want to give you guys what Brett Kern had to say. And he said this, quote, "Titans family, first and foremost, I want to say it's been an honor and a privilege to wear the two-tone blue for the past 13 years. From the bottom of my heart, I can't thank you enough for your love and support and allowing my family and I to call this beautiful city home. When my wife and I came to Nashville in 2009, our son was 8 weeks old. Over the years, all my family has known on Sundays is to cheer for the Titans, and number 6 from section 137, row D, seats 1 through 4. They love this place and the fans here just as much as I do. As I reflect on my time here, I think about the mountaintop experiences and memories that I will never forget, to the challenges that molded me into becoming a better husband, father, teammate, and friend. I will never forget watching two running backs rush for 2K, holding a game-winning kick in 0-degree weather, experiencing a playoff run that almost took us to the Super Bowl, going to 3 Pro Bowls with my family and teammates, jumping out of cardboard boxes in the hallway to scare the rookies, being able to lead Bible studies in chapel or prayer before games, and probably my favorite, hearing the cheers of Nissan Stadium after pinning a team deep. I'm most thankful for the amazing people that I've met over the years, from coaches and general managers that have believed in me, to teammates, equipment staff, operations staff, trainers, and everyone else that works in the building. You will forever have an impact on my life, and I hope and I pray I did the same for you and your families. Thank you for your love, support, and loyalty. Love you all, Brett Kern. So I wanted to bring that to you guys. I know it's kind of wordy there, but Brett Kern is a legend to this organization, and I wanted to make sure you guys knew his parting words. Now, spinning it forward here, we do have to think about what comes next, okay? And Stoney time, baby. That's all I got to say. It is Stoney time. Get excited about Ryan Stonehouse. Brett Kern said it himself. He's only seen 3 or 4 guys in his time in the NFL hit the ball the way that Stoney does. So Ryan Stonehouse will get the Titans punter position heading into the season. Yes, he needs to work on his precision punting. Yes, he needs to work on his accuracy. But guys, that sort of leg, having a cannon, I mean, it's rare. It's just incredibly rare. And Brett Kern told you that himself. So shout out to Brett Kern. Shout out to the legend. But I'm excited about Ryan Stonehouse. And not only that, but the Titans will save $2.2 million by doing this. Yes, the Titans didn't cut Brett Kern back during the free agency period like I expected, but I guess one way or another, Brett Kern did eventually get released. So I'll give myself a little credit on that one. But shout out to the legend, Brett Kern. Very excited for Ryan Stonehouse and what he's going to bring to the team. Wanted to talk about that first, give it the moment that it deserved. But now, 4 other Tennessee Titans were cut on Monday. I'm going to tell you who they were, what positions they were at, and what it means going forward. And at the end of the show, we're going to look at all the other positions on the team and see who may be on the chopping block going forward. Before we get into all of that, though, I do want to tell you guys a little more about our title sponsor from PrizePicks. So PrizePicks is a fantasy game for you guys that kind of throws the traditional fantasy games out the window. They make it simple. You pick 2 through 5 players. PrizePicks has a projection on a statistic or something they may do in the game. For example, 1.5 touchdown scores for Derrick Henry. Is it going to be more? Is it going to be less? 75.5 receiving yards for Treylon Burks. Is it going to be more? Is it going to be less? What you do is you compile a lineup of 2 to 5 players. You look at one individual stat and you say whether it's going to be more or less than PrizePicks projection. I mean, how much more simple could it possibly be? It's easy to play. And yes, I know I'm telling you guys about football, but they have NBA, MLB, NHL, PGA, college football, men's college basketball, women's college basketball, soccer, WNBA, esports, NASCAR, tennis, MMA, boxing, disc golf. They have disc golf at PrizePicks. I mean, it couldn't be more simple than that. You can get set up in under 60 seconds or less. It's safe and fast withdrawals, and they're currently operating in over 30 states and Canada. So download the PrizePicks app or go to prizepicks.com to sign up and play daily fantasy sports. First-time users can receive a 100% instant deposit match up to $100 with the promo code LOCKEDON. That's one word, locked on. If you deposit $100, PrizePicks is going to give you $100. If you deposit $50, PrizePicks is going to give you $50. Don't forget to enter promo code LOCKED ON to sign up for an instant deposit match up to $100 at prizepicks.com. Titans fans, let's continue today's show breaking down the cuts that happened on Monday. Obviously, Brett Kern, the biggest story of them all. But now we got to turn our attention to 4 other Tennessee Titans who were cut on Monday. We had 2 from the offensive line. We had 2 from the defensive backfield. Before I get into that, though, I do want to thank you guys again for making the Locked On Titans podcast your first listen every day. Remember, Monday through Friday, free daily Tennessee Titans content on all platforms here on the Locked On Titans podcast. It's your team every single day. So make sure you stay locked in to the Locked On Titans podcast all season long and beyond. But the 4 cuts, I'm going to start in the defensive backfield. And we got 2 safeties who were cut. One, Adrian Colbert. And I thought Colbert had some good moments out there for the Titans as a backup safety. I thought there was a chance that he might be able to slip on the roster, but the numbers were just too deep ultimately for Colbert to be able to get on there. That's one of the cuts that happened. The other cut that happened was Tyree Gillespie. And listen, I'm just going to take a moment here. As a matter of fact, I'm going to take a quick drink of water before I even get into it. You guys, hydration break. Titans fans, hydration. It's hot out there today. I hope you guys all are staying hydrated. I hope you all took a drink of water when I did. Let's do this as a family, all right? Good for your health. AG1, throw in a little bit. You get water. And anyways, moving forward. Tyree Gillespie. So when Tyree Gillespie was traded for, some people just didn't understand the trade, and that's fine. That's what I'm here for, all right? So everybody, I had some people in my comments saying, the Titans, there's no way that they cut Tyree Gillespie. They gave up trade assets for him. It was a conditional pick. So what happens with a conditional pick? We've seen conditional picks for quarterbacks like Carson Wentz in Indianapolis. Great example. Conditional pick based on the condition of how many snaps Carson Wentz played. Well, this time of year, what happens is you trade a conditional draft pick. I believe it was a 7th round, 2024 conditional pick. You know what the condition was? The condition was that Tyree Gillespie make the roster. If Gillespie doesn't make the roster, then there is no trade. The Titans give up nothing because the condition on the draft pick was him making the roster. So because Tyree Gillespie was cut and didn't make the roster, the Titans will not be giving out a draft pick to the Raiders. So people who were in my comments throughout the last few weeks since Gillespie got traded saying, oh, there's no way he gets cut. He's making the team. They traded for him, blah, 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 blah. No, they're not giving up anything now. And my intel, if you listen to the show where I talked about the trade, my intel from my guy out in Vegas told me pretty bluntly, this guy's not very good. He's not an incredibly hard worker. He doesn't stand out. Don't expect him to make the team. And I relayed that to you guys. Some of you guys call me crazy, but that's the understanding of the trade. So I wanted to take some time and explain that. So Adrian Colbert, Tyree Gillespie, cut from the team. There you go. That leaves, obviously, Byard and Hooker are going to be on the team. But if we talk about the defensive backfield, yes, Martin Lee, Lonnie Johnson over Tyree, the 4 guys left. Lonnie Johnson, who again, Lonnie Johnson, 6'2", over 200 pounds, big-bodied guy, tight end matchup guy. So you think about him as a safety, that's not going to be his role in the regular season. Lonnie Johnson is going to be a dime package extra defensive back, and he's going to be a tight end matchup guy who plays man coverage on tight ends. He's been doing it in practice. He did it during games. I thought he did an excellent job with that in the Buccaneers game, guarding tight ends. So Lonnie Johnson there. Joshua Kalu, special teams dynamo. Maybe not as good as an actual safety, but a special teams guy the Titans can count on. A.J. Moore, a guy with connection to the Houston guys in the building. Anthony Midget, specifically, the defensive backs coach. He's got a connection there. A guy who, A.J. Moore, was one of the better special teamers in the NFL last year. And then you have the rookie Theo Jackson. So those are the 4 guys who are left at safety, vying for, in my opinion, 3 spots. You got Byard and Hooker, and then, of course, those 4 safeties I just named, but I only think 3 of them make it. For me, Joshua Kalu gets the boot. Lonnie Johnson gives you tight end matchup versatility and special teams, and I think he's a better safety than these guys. Theo Jackson, just a young guy, not worth giving up on yet. See if he can play some safety. try to work on him again with a little bit of nickel, although I think he may struggle there immediately. A.J. Moore, I like. So Lonnie Johnson, A.J. Moore, Theo Jackson, put them with Byard and Hooker. To me, that's the safety group, but I'm very much anticipating that news. And then the next two cuts were Willie Wright and Hayden Howerton. Hayden Howerton, the undrafted free agent. He's a center, an interior offensive lineman, can play all three spots. I think Hayden Howerton gets to the practice squad. That was a guy that I identified as someone who I think will make the practice squad. Willie Wright was a camp body. He always was. Shout out to Willie Wright and his family or whatever. I don't mean to be rude, but we got to talk reality here. Willie Wright was never making this team, never had a chance. So I'm not surprised he was the first offensive lineman cut. Now, Howerton being cut this early, I guess it does make sense, but he is a guy who I'm hoping gets on the Titans practice squad. I like Howerton's potential. He's a guy I want to see them continue to develop. That leaves on the offensive line Andrew Ripsich, Jalen McKenzie, Christian DeLauro, Xavier Newman, Willie wrong. That's funny. Jordan Roos, and Corey Levin. So, as I said yesterday, I think the Titans are keeping 9 offensive linemen. So, I think that Corey Levin and Jordan Roos will be kept. But if they only keep 11 and they only keep 8 offensive linemen, then I want to see Roos, Xavier Newman, and Christian DeLauro on the practice squad. Ripsich and McKenzie, not impressed enough. Let them go. DeLauro, get him on the practice squad. Newman, I want to see him continue to develop, him and Howerton. And then if you're only keeping 11, Roos needs to be on the practice squad because he's been starting during the preseason at guard. I just think they'll want to keep him around. So, and I agree with some of the comments. I think the offensive line is scary right now with the lack of depth. I'm not impressed with the depth, especially with Jamarco Jones banged up. It is a worrisome position. The Titans really, I think, if the Titans do cut Ryan Tannehill next year and they go with Malik Willis in 2023 to save that money, I think some serious money has to go back into the offensive line. Ben Jones may be gone. Get a new left guard in there. Pay some money. Just basically redo what you did with Saffold. I like that idea. So I am worried about the offensive line like you guys are. But that's how I see the offensive line. Who's on the chopping block, who I think they keep. Again, Roos and Levin, I would go with 9 right now with how banged up they are on the offensive line. If, like Mike Vrabel said, Nate Davis and Jamarco Jones come back to practice this week, like Mike Vrabel hinted at, then maybe you feel a little bit better. Dylan Radins at guard. Yeah, that helps, but I just feel uncomfortable with the offensive line as it stands right now. No way around it. Okay, so, but we got to be watching and see. Yeah, Brett Kern's best punter in Titans history. I agree. But moving forward, let's talk about the other positions and who could be on the chopping block for the Titans. Before we get into it, guys, I do just have to tell you about something serious here. It's never okay to drive stoned. If you feel different, you drive different. And if you've been using marijuana in any form, do not get behind the wheel. It's no big deal, right? Wrong. What's the worst that can happen? You end up driving below the speed limit? No. The truth is your reaction time slows way down when you're high. You not only put yourself in danger, but everyone around you. Talk about a buzzkill. Stop kidding yourself. It's not okay to drive high. If you've been using marijuana in any form, again, don't get behind the wheel. If you feel different, you drive different. Drive high and get a DUI. Titans fans, let's continue breaking down these cuts. We talked about Brett Kern. We talked about the 4 other cuts, Willie Wright, Hayden Howerton, Adrian Colbert, Tyree Gillespie. Now I want to get into the other positions that we haven't seen cuts at yet. So diving in here, got to talk about running back. Trent Cannon, Julius Chestnut is my expectation. I would tell you, I would be surprised to see Hassan Haskins cut. I think that would be a surprise. to me. I'm expecting the Triple H in the backfield of Henry, Hilliard, and Haskins. And outside of that, I don't think Trenton Cannon's needed. And Julius Chestnut should be on the practice squad. So I'm expecting to hear about those cuts tomorrow. At tight end, I would say they're cutting Wells. They're cutting Odukoye. Tommy Hudson is right on that bubble. I don't think that Tommy Hudson should be cut. I think the Titans need to keep 4 tight ends. I've been saying that all along, and I'm going to stick to that. I think it would be a surprise to see Jeff Swaim get cut. If Tommy Hudson had a very productive and healthy preseason, I could see maybe Swaim getting cut. But with Tommy Hudson being up and down on the injury report, I just can't see cutting Swaim. So I'm going to say that Wells and Odukoye are cut. Get Odukoye on the practice squad. Keep Tommy Hudson. At wide receiver, Reggie Roberson, Mason Kinsey, Des Fitzpatrick, Cody Hollister. Guys, this is a spot where I could see the Titans getting a 6th wide receiver on a different team off of waivers, someone else who was cut. So that's what I would be looking at. I would be looking at a 6th wide receiver from another team if the Titans keep 6. If not, man, I just don't want to keep any of those guys. Get Roberson and Kinsey on the practice squad. Hollister and Dez, maybe if they have an extra spot, they can get Hollister back. He's a good depth wide receiver as a practice squad guy. He fits that physical mold. He's like a direct backup for Nick Westbrook-Akina and the style that they want out of him. So I could see them bringing Hollister back. But for me, Roberson and Kinsey make much more sense. I would be surprised if Racey McMath is cut. That would be my surprise cut. Do not foresee that. So at offensive line, I talked about it earlier. Andrew Ripsich, Jalen McKenzie, Christian DeLauro, Xavier Newman, Jordan Roos, Corey Levin, all could be cut. I think they keep Roos and Levin. A surprise cut for me would be Jamarco Jones. Jamarco Jones got in the fight with Taylor Lewan before practice. He's probably not happy about Aaron Brewer winning that starting position. If the Titans want to go with a younger guy because maybe Jamarco Jones isn't happy, he's still banged up. There could be a ton of different factors. Again, it would be a surprise cut. I'm just throwing in a surprise cut for you guys just for interest factor. But I am not expecting Jamarco Jones to get cut in any way. I think it'll come out. I think Ripsich, McKenzie, DeLauro, Newman are cut. Keep Roos and Levin with the 7 that we know, the starting 5, Radens and Jamarco Jones. Yeah, Jamarco Jones seems like he may have a little bit of an attitude issue. Yeah, I don't think it's crazy to think that, all right? I really don't. Not only the reported fight between him and Lewan before practice, but also his response afterwards. Oh, just boys be boys. And walking around, I don't know. I feel weird about it. Anyways, moving forward. We talked wide receiver. We talked O-line. We talked tight end and running back. Defensive line, this is tough. I mean, I'm thinking got Kevin Strong, Deshaun Hand, Larrell Murchison, Jaden Peavy, Sam Okweanonu, I think are all potentially going to be cut. Maybe one of Strong or Hand will get to stick on. And a surprise cut that could happen is Naquan Jones. I didn't think he was great in the preseason. Been a little banged up. Tart has been excellent. Maybe they can get somebody else to play nose tackle. Again, surprise cut. Not expecting it, but just keep an eye out. I think that Murch, Peavy, and Okweanonu are definite cuts. I would keep Hand personally if they had to choose, but don't be surprised if it's Kevin Strong, who is more of a direct backup to Jeffrey Simmons. You got to think about that positionally. Hand is more of DeMarcus Walker, Danico Autry replacement, whereas Kevin Strong is more of a Jeffrey Simmons replacement. At linebacker, stack linebacker, you could see guys like Chance Campbell cut, Dylan Cole, Joe Jones, Jack Gibbons. None of those would be a surprise. Maybe Campbell, but Campbell's not going to get cut. I just don't believe that. I could see Gibbons and Jones or Cole being cut. I say 2 of those 3 stay. I would think it was Cole and Jones. But if they want to go with the potential of Gibbons over Jones because they think Jones has a better chance of getting through waivers onto the practice squad, then I would agree with that as well. I'm totally fine with that. Not very happy with the depth there, if we're honest with ourselves. So Outside linebacker, there's no discussion to have. All the outside linebackers need to be kept. Bud Dupree, Harold Landry, Rashad Weaver, Ola Adeni, and David Anini. Maybe they get rid of David Anini, but I think that would be pretty dumb, in my opinion. He's going to get picked up on waivers. He flashed a lot during the preseason. At cornerback, Trey Avery, Trey Swilling, Ugo Amadi, Chris Jackson, Greg Maben. I know some of you guys get in my comments, and I've seen this on Twitter telling me that Ugo Amadi is a safety. He is a nickelback for the Titans. He's going to play the same role as Elijah Molden. Is Elijah Molden a safety? No, he's a nickelback. He's a corner, okay? And I honestly, this is like in the NBA where we're starting to diversify positions. It's not just point guard, shooting guard, but, that doesn't really fit the game anymore. Well, calling Ugo Amadi or Elijah Molden a safety or a cornerback is just not fair. They're a nickelback. They play in the nickel. And they're going to play on early downs, not passing downs where they're covering wide receivers and man. So Ugo Amadi is in the cornerback group, not the safety group. And that's semantical, but just want to point it out. I think Ugo Amadi is safe out of that group. I think Maben or Chris Jackson is the real conversation of who will be kept to keep 6 cornerbacks. I wouldn't be surprised to see a cornerback taken from a different team off waivers or just after they clear waivers. So, my dog is upset about that. He is a big fan of the cornerback group, apparently. But, Chris Jackson and Greg Maben are the decision to be made there. It's unbelievable. When has my dog ever barked during the show? Chris Jackson is awful, but he plays special teams. I think the 2 Treys, Trey Avery and Trey Swilling, they're not going to make it. I'll wrap this up quick. 3 of these guys are going to be kept. One's going to be cut. AJ Moore, Josh Kalu, Lonnie Johnson, Theo Jackson. I think it's AJ Moore, Lonnie Johnson, and Theo Jackson are kept. I think Josh Kalu gets cut, but Jesus Lord. With that being said, guys, I'm getting out of here. We're going to be back tomorrow to break down all the cuts. That's going to do it for me today, though, folks. That's going to do it for Kobe. I'll talk to you guys tomorrow. This was Locked On Titans.